Or JP Smith, the MMC for Safety, and also the Minister for Security. You know, governing party and opposition parties can work together. Just now, I am being escorted out of this unsafe environment in the Civic Centre by opposition councillors Suzette Little and Jonathan Cupido. You see, cooperation to save me from the violent mobs. The violent mobs that are surrounding civic centers. Come on, guys, do better, please. So I want to thank the good party
for helping me.
And remember, there are only two genders, man and older man. And I am an older man, okay? That is how you stay alert and stay alive with older man JP Smith.
Inside Council episode 3, but we weren't really. We were inside council and the governing party were outside council on that day. I'm with councillors Jonathan Cupido. How are you doing?
Roscoe, I can't complain, doing well. Being inside council, escorting JP outside of council, away from the violent mob, who was actually just officials, law enforcement officers, nobody else.
And I've got, backed by popular demand from TikTok, I've got Suzette Little. Your spectacles were very popular on your last videos.
Is it?
Yes, the one comment was, I trust anything this lady says based on the spectacles alone. So welcome back.
Yeah, we'll put it out there.
So then, Jonathan, you are tell me about the violent mobs on that day, you know, from the perspective of you as being the chief whip of the good party, where these violent mobs that had to be, you know, kept away from JP Smith and Xanthia Limburg and the DA in general.
Well, Roscoe, I'm still searching for the violent mob. It all started off with, in December, we had our last programming committee meeting. And in our programming committee meeting, we brought up the subject of in-person meetings and online meetings. And the speaker has made a commitment that our first meeting in January will be an in-person meeting. And that is because there's budgetary-related issues. And whenever there's an item that is budgetary-related, we normally do that in person. Now, people need to understand where the online meeting derives from. It's actually from the time when we had COVID. And because government still had to function, that's when these online meetings then started off. But it has become a trend in the city, and based on the speaker, he says that it's cost saving for the city, even though when we asked for it, because I've asked, she can't give you the amount that we're saving. And I'll explain why I say she can't give it, because whilst many of the councillors are online, you also have councillors attending the civic centre like we've done on the day. And we've got staff that's available remotely, and then we've got staff available right then and there. So when it comes to cost savings, it's probably speaking about travel claims, and that's it. But let's get to the day.
I want to ask a question. So just to put it into sequence, the police raid JP Smith's office, and then
Correct.
The speaker says, no, we're anticipating there's a threat, or there's a threat of disruption, so we're going to have the council meeting be a Zoom meeting, be online, right? What, to our knowledge, credible threats were received to the council, or to the council building, or to JP Smith, or to anybody, in fact?
Roscoe, it's normal from the governing party to not take any opposition party into their confidence. They want to bulldoze the opposition parties. They want to just put some notice out there, and we need to abide to it. In the meeting, when we asked the speaker, why has this meeting now suddenly been moved after the agenda announces it to be in person, and the calendar appointment that we received saying in person. The raid happened, as you've rightfully mentioned, and then just the following week we received a notice that now it's going to be an online meeting. So we asked the speaker, and the speaker has made reference to there's a threat. The city manager has informed that there is a possible threat. And after that we asked what. There was one story mentioning of 2 councillors who are going to disrupt the meeting. Then there's another story saying that there's going to be disruptions on the 2nd floor. Then another of a councillor that once upon a time used his access card and brought a person into the chambers, and that person created some chaos in the gallery. Now, we can respond to all of it and saying that there's no immediate threat on any councillor, not on the speaker, not on the 2 alleged councillors who is now being investigated into a corruption case. There's no threats upon anybody. So there was no reason for the speaker to take this meeting from an in-person meeting to a online meeting. And the purpose for online meeting was just to ensure that we, as the opposition party, could not hold the mayor accountable for his decisions that he's made. Because obviously when we're online, we don't have any access to speaking to an item. We need to go to an IM box and we need to ask the speaker permission to speak. And if she sees that we've asked a question, then she possibly would allow it. Otherwise, the items is just being bulldozed through. And that's where we're sitting ourselves. But I'd love to go to another part of why I'm having a problem and why I believe the online meetings should actually stop and we should get to in-person meetings, not just for the protection of or the incident that we currently had, but there's a more deeper technical side to this matter. Because let's go to the day when we were in council. All the opposition parties, or at least 6 of the opposition parties, the biggest 6, were all found to be in the chambers. We have not logged onto the system, onto the online meeting, but we registered ourselves in the chamber as per the first notification that we received. While sitting there, we noted that at least 4 to 5 governing party councillors walking around, but they registered in the meeting as being present while they've been walking around. Now, when we look at the stats, it's about there's about 21 in difference from the councillors present, others being on leave, us not logging on. Now, at any given time, if 21 to 22 to 25 people were not present in the meeting is not correct. And so there's no mechanism in place currently to say that whilst you're logged on, there's a guarantee that that specific councillor that logged on is actually present in the meeting and being actively involved in the meeting, be it listening or even speaking. More speakers you will find there, but those that's listening, you find them walking around. You possibly I can log in as we're sitting here, and I can go out and I can go garden. I can go work in my garden. Nobody will know that I'm there. I can take a drive to the shop and go buy something. Unless somebody knows that I'm supposed to be in council and report it, nobody's going to know that I'm there. Yeah. But yet, my vote is registered against an item because I've logged in. So obviously there's a flaw in the system, and that results in the question as to all the items that has been passed on a online platform, was it really legally compliant? Was the meeting actually correct throughout? And that's a bigger concern that we're sitting with, because there could have been an item that required the vote of every single councillor. And it's evident in the communities, because when you start asking questions to the councillors, it's the reason why we don't have public participation. It's part reason. It's the reason why when the public generally ask a question to a councillor, the councillors can't answer those questions because they already just logged in, a decision has already been made, and if you look at the systems of delegations, that power is mostly with the mayor and his mayoral committee members. So once the mayor and the mayoral committee members have made their decision, it is now cast in stone. And so whether they're online or not, being present, logged in, but not being present doesn't really matter, because the decision that a mayor has made is the decision that's going through, which at the end of the day means that we are not correct. There could be points or certain times that we are not correct, and then legally we are in violation. And so we need to, for us as the Good Party, I think it's very important for us to continue this fight around the fact that we have these in-committee meetings, not in-committee, but these meetings that's created to an extent to protect certain councillors, and also to possibly prevent the public from genuinely understanding what's transpiring, specifically to matters that's affecting them.
One more thing about this, I want to bring in Suzette Little. So there was no credible threat to the building or the people, or nothing that the speaker can point to. And we will get to a lot of the things that fell off the agenda on that day that, opposition parties would have wanted to contribute to. But why then, what is the speakers and the governing party of Cape Town's rationale for making this meeting be online? Why did they do that?
It was a political decision. It was a DA decision. When a speaker is elected and takes up that position in council, the council meeting becomes the speaker's arena. She is not a political body. She is a person that governs the council. Therefore, she represents each and every councillor in that chamber. I come from governance where we had a speaker that actually allowed the opposition to speak. Yes, they had their speaking time, but had given the opposition to speak. We also had a mayor that would allow the opposition's point of views to be heard, and if it made sense, would send the item back for review. That is the job of the opposition. You cannot find yourself in a council where we find ourselves today, where the only thing that comes out of council is, we well run, but the officers has been raided for the third time, but we well run. It is the speaker's job to ensure that the opposition plays its role in council to do just that. So when the speaker makes a decision based on her party's decision, she's already out of line. She is completely out of line and have not taken the rest of the councillors into consideration or the rules. There was no threat. Like normal. The DA makes statements. They go out and make a statement. So much so that we now have the commissioner asking the mayor to please explain his statement. Because he also goes out and he makes statements. They make these wild statements. It's not founded or grounded in anything. Likewise, with the speaker, made a statement that we're under threat. Who threatened her? Was the threat that we were going to question them about the MACO member? Was the threat that we were going to question the governance we're going to call that into question? Were we going to question her about the fact that they did not suspend a MACO member or both MACO members? Was that the threat? Well, the threat is going to remain for the 2025 year because the questions remain unanswered. How is it possible that according to the mayor, he got a police commissioner in. The police commissioner, according to what media is saying, said that it isn't that serious. What commissioner told him that? It wasn't that serious. And we leave a MACO member in the same position that has caused a national security agency to raid their offices. Now, MACO member Badruddin tampered with electricity and was removed. I'm sure that the raid by the Hawks is a little bit more serious than tampering with electricity, and therefore the MACO member had to be removed. Now there's 101 questions, and maybe I'll bring you back and ask you that I can explain to you what it's like to get onto the wrong side of Alderman Smith. I've got the emails and I've got the letters from my lawyers that will explain to you how the DA operates. I also have evidence of how councillors are investigated by this young man. And so one questions, what exactly is going on that 6th floor? What is it that the mayor is aware of that he's not telling the public? Understand, he's a public rep, just like me, just like you. He's a public rep. Why is JP being protected? Why was Councillor Badruddin not protected for electricity tampering? It's not that serious. Why was he not left in his position? It's not that serious. How did the speaker mess around with everybody to make a political decision and then force every other political party to follow a DA decision? I don't follow a DA decision. I have my own political party that I follow. I've been in the DA, if people don't know. I've chosen not to be there.
Roscoe, if I can add quickly, just to prove to you that there was no threat. We were taken to an online meeting. Then our portfolios happened. Energy was online. Safety and security was online. So the protection here, or there was no threat to energy. There was no threat coming to safety and security. We've not received such notice. We were also, like in the case of council, on the last minute, just informed that we're taken now to the online meetings. But you see, it's about the abuse of power.
And how do we stop them? How do we stop the speaker from abusing this power in the future?
We need to get to that point where the rules are being applied to. The Structures Act and the Systems Act is quite clear on the roles and responsibilities of the speaker. And we need to ensure that we get to that point where she applies it to council and not function as if she is a DA speaker, because that's the problem that we're sitting with. She's implementing the decisions made by the DA caucus. Yes, they are the governing party, but her role when she takes up that chair is to sit there as the Speaker of Council and must treat every single council member in the same fashion. There cannot be that a DA councillor is being treated better than any other opposition party, and vice versa. She needs to make sure that it's done the same, but that's a failure. The Speaker's biggest problem is not being able to implement the rules. And we can take you back to many other previous disruptions. And while everybody else is trying and pointing out to, at the one stage it was the ANC, and it wasn't even the ANC, it started off with a Democratic Alliance council who actually threw the ANC councillors with water. That's where it started off. In another one, it was at EFF, and it was also in a case where the EFF had a silent protest. And the speaker then just went off crazy, not applying the rules, but then started the disruptions in council, resulting in the city being brought into disrepute. So obviously, what we need is, while the speaker is saying, and I'm saying this bluntly, and I'm saying it to an extent of how I feel. While the speaker is wanting to put programs together, to take councillors through training, I believe that the speaker also needs to go through training in order for her to understand what she needs to do in her duties as a speaker, because clearly she don't understand what she's supposed to do in that chambers. She don't understand that she's supposed to take the lead and make sure that services are being brought to the residents. Now, the abuse of power is so big. We spoke about the Badruddin case. We spoke about JP and Zanti, and then there's Malusi Boy. Now, if I want to prove to you about the abuse of power, the mayor in the city of Cape Town appoints his maker and then he removes. Nowhere in any legal document, be it in any act or any policy, does the mayor have the authority to suspend. In the case of Boy, the mayor suspended Boy. He doesn't have the authority to do so. He can only appoint to his maker, and then he must remove from his maker. And it was Good who actually came up with the question and asked, how are you suspending this person? Because if you're suspending him, it must be with pay, because you can't remove the pay. So after the pressure, the mayor then removed him. But it's just evident of how they continually go out there and just implement what they think. It's like waking up this morning and saying, I had this bright idea. Today I'm going to do this in council. And they step into council and they just do this. and the residents must be happy. But the rights of the residents are being violated when they are doing this, and that needs to come to an end. And it doesn't just end by us continually fighting with them, be it in court, be it in the chambers. It must get to a point where the voters now start saying, it's by time that we put other people in place. It's by time that we vote out these bullies from council.
We're going to talk about the things that fell off the agenda because of the Speaker's abuse of power. Right after this, we'll talk about the integrated annual report of the city and some of the damning findings. Stick around. Clean audit, the city of Cape Town has once again managed to achieve a clean audit, but that is only 10% of the story. The integrated annual reports were one of the items that fell off the agenda as the Speaker moved to make the session of council online. So we thought that we would present what the integrated annual report said to the people regardless, and we're going to run through that with Suzette Little. Suzette, first of all, what's the integrated annual report? Who compiles it, and what does it tell us about the city's performance?
Okay, Roscoe, the integrated report is a report that is drafted once a year on the outcomes of how monies has been spent, how it aligned with the IDP, and how the legislations, the various legislations, the policies and all of those things, how it was implemented over that financial year. So you will find that the integrated report is reported or is brought out once a year. It is retrospective. So in this case, the latest report would be the 2023-2024 report, ending last year, June. And then the auditor's comments and findings. What you will not find in the auditor's, the annual general report or the integrated report are your findings of the Auditor General. He gives you certain opinions, but literally the report that is going out for comment is a report of what the city has done in terms of its capital budget, its operational budget, and how it aligns to the integrated development plan. So every city has this plan, the IDP. And that plan is reviewed every year, where we're supposed to have public participation. You know, that's my pet at the moment. And where people and communities get to tell the city what they would like to see happen in their areas, where councillors are supposed to use their ward allocation for those incidents or those projects that are not really covered by the budget of the city, but your things such as traffic calming, upgrading of a park, putting up a fence, you know, these little things that people are asking for in the area that you as a councillor can do. And so this is what this report is about. It is going out for public participation. I would encourage all residents to please read it. It's very interesting reading. And it really tells you what the city is doing right and what they're doing wrong. What they're doing right is what they're supposed to be doing right. I mean, that is why we have a report. It is a report to tell you that where things are going well, it's fine. Where things are going wrong, it's got to be highlighted. And where things are going wrong is when I think it's where people actually don't want to hear, because the city has got such a wonderful mechanism, media mechanism, that tells us that we're the best run city, that we actually don't want to hear when things go wrong. Mm-hmm. But the integrated report actually tells us and highlights certain things, but it's not a flashing light. You've actually got to read the report.
So let's go through some of these highlights and lowlights. Procurement and financial mismanagement. And this report is available to the public. You can see this with your own eyes. It highlights 625.7 million rand in tenders that violated supply chain rules, 130 million rand in unauthorized in unauthorized legal procurement and 8.4 million rand on expired contracts. Suzette, who's responsible for this mismanagement?
If I can just, if you can just put it up on the screen. Is it on the screen?
Which page?
Page 163.
Yeah.
And if we can just zoom in on page 307, if we can just highlight that, you'll see on that page, no, the other side, 163, on page 307.
307.
Yes, 307. Just go across to 307. There we are. There we are. We're talking about the Municipal Finance Management Act continue, right? At the top it says that. And then it says incidents. Can you all see that? And it says legal services procurement in terms of supply chain, legal services procurement, not in terms of supply chain management regulation. And that's 130.
That's 130 million.
No, 130,000.
Okay.
Because it's a
Right,
double
thousands,
notes,
yes.
triple notes. Okay. Then there's expenditure incurred after contract expired. That's 8.4 million. Then non-compliance of city supply chain policy, supply chain management regulation, and section 33, 111 and 116 of the MFMA. That's 625 million.
So
now,
what does that mean?
that means that 634 million rand has had something that is irregular about it. And that has been my gripe when I was still with Impact. This irregularity within supply chain that claims to be, it's just a misdemeanor here and a little misdemeanor there, and everything then just becomes irregular. The favorite or the most famous statement that you will hear in Impact is the city receives services. Now, when asked, where is the certificate of completion? It's never available.
So let's just backtrack for just to be an example of this. So you are the city, you approach me to supply a service, but I don't, it's not through a regular supply chain management process, There's something wrong with that procurement of that service.
I don't know.
You
see, this is why these reports are so important. These reports are very important for the public to ask exactly that question.
But in the case of, sorry, just to interrupt you there, if the city says, well, services were supplied, so there's nothing to look at yet, there's no worry. It means that I can give the tender or the job to anybody else. Circumvent supply chain management procedures, and then just say well, look, it's fine, we got the services, so there's nothing more to look into it. It just gets filed under this category.
Well, we don't know. You see, we can speculate as much as we want to. But if we cannot have openness, transparency, being able to question, understand Impact's meetings are all closed, yet Scopa in Parliament is open. It's open to the public. But the City of Cape Town's Impact is closed. So you don't get to hear or see what they are questioning. But look at what the Auditor General says. A potential fraud risk was identified concerning allegations of non-compliance with laws and regulations within the Urban Waste Management Directorate, specifically relating to community-based refuge collection and area cleaning and informal settlements of the City of Cape Town. The matter is under investigation by Ethics and Forensic Services. Right, it's there. Now, when you look at that, that is only referred to in waste management. We don't know where that 625 million lies. We don't know which department. Is it part of that waste management? Is it within the other parts of the City of Cape Town? The minute a statement like that appears in an Auditor General's report, it must raise questions.
It should raise alarm bells.
It should raise alarm
within
bells.
the city. So what
Yes.
did the city do about this?
That's the question. What is the city doing about it? Now, as an opposition party, we're not allowed to ask questions. In actual fact, we don't even have access to that tender platform anymore. It's been taken away. Now, it says legal services procurement, not in terms of supply chain management. It says there, it's 130,000. Now, 130,000 doesn't sound much, but it's 130,000, it's public funds. Legal services falls directly under the oversight or management of the city manager. And he's the only one that has oversight over that. So where's the 130,000? Expenditure incurred after contract expired. How did that occur? That's 8.4 million. How did that occur? Now, when these questions when you start asking these questions with regards to how does the supply chain, how do we get to this point? Are we then not a well-run city? Are we not, according to this good or this clean audit, the clean audit says that we follow certain procurement processes, tick. We have certain rules that we follow, tick. It says that we follow a certain supply chain process, tick. So how did this happen? And that is why the question, this is why we say there needs to be an explanation. And the public must start asking the question. Because a little bit further down in the same report, you will see 2.1 billion rand allocated to, what do they call it? Let me see, how do they refer to it as having given it to, I think it's 166. Given to family and state employees.
Right.
But-
we're going to
but-
get to
but-
that. We will get to that.
So when you look at the amount of money that is given in procurement to family, to city officials, ne? Is it city officials?
That was
166.
So 2.1 billion in contracts were awarded to relatives of city officials, state employees, and politically connected
Yes.
individuals.
If you can go to 166,
Can I just quickly say something?
page 313.
On the discussion of supply chain and the 625 million that was referred to, and when we look at AG's comment, now many times when our people read this, they're not looking at bread and butter, looking in the immediate facilities. And when you do that, you start understanding why we have the amount of dumping happening in our communities. Wherever you go around, we see dumped all over, and we blame the community continually. But that possibly contribute towards, or is part of the reason why we have, for an area like Mitchell's Plain that have 16 beats, so it means 16 areas that they need to service, but we only have 10 vehicles available to service those. Where we get to a place in the same directorate, in Mitchell's Plain, where you have 10 vehicles that's available and 7 breaks down on the same day, resulting in no services and people then taking that refuge and dumping it, which is not correct. They shouldn't be doing it. But it's the failure of the city. And that numbers has just proven to us that it's not that well run as what they are saying. And when we look at that numbers and we look at the conditions around us where we live, we then actually see that there's the problem. It's failing in managing the city and making sure that services are being brought to the community. Sorry, Suzette, I just had to bring that in.
It's quite fine. If we can go to page 166, it's not this one. If we can just reduce it.
166 there?
No, the page just after the one that we were busy with. Further down. Further down. Just go back to 163.
That is 163.
Something's
The
not
top
right.
page, the top page there.
Okay, go up, go up, go up, go up. Yeah, this one here, this one here. I think our numbers are different to yours.
Yeah, I think it's different.
Right, just go down, just scroll down,
One page down.
one page down. Another one, another one. There we go. On page 313. If you go to page 313. Okay.
Is that
That one. You just need to zoom that one in.
Yes. Now let's have a look at what they are telling you. City of Cape Town. It says there, supply chain management regulation continue, bids awarded to family of employees in the service of the state. Now, if you look at some of those names and you look at some of the positions that people hold, this is 2.1 billion rand of tenders that has been awarded to family of employees in the service of the state. Now, family of employees in the service of the state. And we can say it again. Family of employees in the service of the state. It doesn't really, it's not illegal, it's not fraudulent to do business with the city. But when you start looking at the services provided in the city of Cape Town, when you've got to call the maintenance person in rental stock 4 times to fix a bath, where you've got to phone them 3 times to have a plug changed, when you've got to continuously request maintenance to have something done in the city of Cape Town, then one starts questioning how effective are these people in the service delivery. How effective can you be if you're a teacher standing in front of 90 children in the Western Cape and you now have to provide a service? And that is my question. My question is, how effective are we really? What percentage of that 2.1 was actually done correctly? What percentage of that has actually gone through the proper procedures? I don't know. It is a question. It is part of my oversight to ask that question. Because when the services out there starts lacking, I've got to find the source of the problem. Now, not so long ago, we saw the same Auditor General make a statement that, yes, the City of Cape Town, and it was 22-23 audit report, yes, that the performance was brilliant, but the performance of the supply chain and monies were accounted for, but the performance was poor. Now, then one has got to wonder, where exactly is the money going to? Is this city not looking at economic growth? Because that is one of the standards that they claim that they are working towards. And I'll show you that in another section of this. But 2.1 billion rand
awarded to relatives of city officials, state employees. So, I mean, in this case, no laws were broken, but it creates like a higher risk of fraud and manipulation. So there should be stricter regulations and for to prevent conflict of interest, and conflict of interest should be looked into by the city. But that's the number, 2.1 billion. It's not what you know. That's who you know.
You even have staff that have tenders. Now, that should not be allowed. If you're working for the city, it shouldn't be allowed. It really should not be allowed. What is your priority? Is your salary your priority and making sure that the service is good? Or is your priority making sure you maintain your tender? What is your priority? Is your priority your tender in your business, or is it the people of Cape Town? And when you make that decision, clearly the people are not going to be the ones that's going to get your attention.
Shall we talk about the fraud allegations and investigations, particularly the Urban Waste Management Directorate? I want to specifically talk about solid waste. Yeah. You were going to tell me a story about solid waste and the bins.
Yes, I was quite surprised at one of the portfolios that I attended. And I should really encourage people to have a look, and I should ask the public, have a look on the city's web. The meetings and the dates of the meetings are on the web. They advertise when these portfolios are are actually going to be open to the public. And please make the effort to join us. You can join us in person. You can ask for a link to the meeting. But the city has its meetings, its portfolio meetings are open to the public. And I would encourage people to come and have a listen to what is actually being told. So one of the meetings that we attended, portfolio meetings, the city is busy with a new concept in two specific areas, which is the Noon and in Mannenberg. And Mannenberg's new project is as a result of the by-election that was held not so long ago. And I think the city realized how filthy the place was. And, the normal sentiment around Cape Town is, people like dumping. They just, they love living in the filth. And so that is normally the comment that you hear from those that actually don't read. And so in this portfolio, what shocked me was that the official made it known that only a third of those living in flats have access to bins. In actual fact, only a third is issued with bins.
100 people living in a place, only 30 get bins.
30 bins are issued.
But they're not issued to people who
No.
own it. They're en masse. It's not Suzette Little, this is your bin.
No. It is 30 bins that is available for you to use. If it's broken, well, it's going to be extremely difficult to replace because it doesn't really belong to anybody. But 30 bins, a third of those in the flats are. And when I said to them, well, what does the other 2/3 do with their dirt? Because the comments that one continuously gets is that we teach people, we do training, we go out into the communities and we do, the ZB bin?
Awareness, yeah.
We do awareness and we tell people how to discard of their dirt. But if you don't have a bin, training someone to put dirt in a bin that you don't have is extremely stupid. As our leader says, it is your constitutional right to be stupid. But in this case, if you're going to train the community how to use the bin, logic says you should give them a bin so that they may use it.
What's the city's excuse, though, for not giving
No
everybody
excuse
a bin?
necessary because, we are a well-run city. So there's no excuse really needed because the people are going to support you. We are a well-run city and people like dumping. So the fact that only a third is given must be the ANC's fault. Because only the ANC would fail to give people bins. So it's not the DA-run city of Cape Town. It's the ANC. But now they are starting with a new project. And the new project in the Noon and Mannenberg, it's a brilliant concept. They are giving every person a bin. They are giving every person a bin. And they are saying it's brilliant. The dumping has been reduced. And I wonder why. Because,
People have places to put
their dirt. But let's come back to the fraud. We don't know. The fraud that we see and that we have that's been highlighted has been in the media where the ED has been, I think he's been dismissed. I believe that his matter is going to come before the courts at some point. It is a community vendor program, but the details of which we don't know. All that we see as councillors is what is in the media at the moment. So I cannot comment on what the details are of that investigation. As the Auditor General just said, it is before forensic. And I must tell the community, it is not the forensics that you believe, as in maybe the Hawks forensic or the SIU of the National Prosecuting Authority. This is the city's own forensic. So like my husband used to say, it's like reporting the devil in hell.
And expect them to
come up and tell you the truth. So I'm not going to hold my breath. I'll be very surprised if we get the truth. I'll be just as surprised as everybody else. I've seen them investigate. So we'll wait and see when it comes to the forensic report on the waste management. I have no detail.
Yeah. Let's move on to the thing that that is a real problem in the city: housing and service delivery failure, the housing backlog. Now, this report states that the housing backlog in Cape Town stands at 350,000 families. The city has only delivered 1,627 service sites out of the promised 7,100. Suzette, why? Why?
I don't know how to tell the public this. But they ain't going to get a house anytime soon.
Why not?
There's no real urgency. The city is one of the largest landlords in the country. The city of Cape Town, let me say the city of Cape Town, is one of the largest landlords in the country. But it's not going to the people of the city. It's going everywhere but. It's going to those that already have. It's going to those that can afford to auction. But it's most certainly not going to those whose families were dispossessed of their properties in Claremont and Simonstown and Cape Town and Greenpoint and Sea Point and Warmer Estate and Salt River and Woodstock and should I carry on Mowbray and Claremont and Harfield and every other place you can name. It's not going there. They live in council rental areas, in the ghettos, where there's absolutely nothing, where there's no services, where the sewer's running down the road. And then we get told by this ruling party that we live better than anywhere else. You know, we're better than the rest of the country. And I'm not quite sure what the rest of the country is, if the rest of the country is considered to be black, and we the last white frontier, and we are better because we're here. I have no idea. But we are told that we live better. So why don't we get housing? Because there is absolutely no political will, none whatsoever, to provide housing. There isn't. There isn't a desire to find a way to do a development. Now, I'm going to start with a project called Mau Mau in Gugulethu. When I became the sub-council chair in 2011, Mau Mau had already been on the cards for years, with budget, with housing, what do they call them, committees, with budget, with consultants, with contractors. Mau Mau is still standing. It's vacant. There's a few foundations, there's a few walls. It's never been built. We're not talking about the ANC in Limpopo. We're not talking about the ANC in Eastern Cape. We're talking about Mau Mau. We're talking about the best run city. We're talking Gugulethu. There was 9 projects in the inner city development that was released by Brett and by Patricia, the very reason that they attacked Patricia de Lille to start off with. 9 projects. Pickwick. Is it Newmarket? Newcastle.
Newmarket.
And we can go on. It's standing still. It's never moved. It will not move. They do not want you with them. Now, I don't know. As the one consultant says, they can build in Delft and Makaza and Mfaleni. We can build out there. I'm not sure where there is, but we can build out there. But the inner city, are you crazy? I mean, that's the best run city, and so we don't want you there. I mean, that's where the tourists are, man, really. We can put you somewhere else, somewhere. It reminds me of Batman and, Gotham. We can put you out in Gotham, but yeah, by us. But us is not your place. Us. There's restitution. And I understand why people are wanting to look at things such as, I think it's the King, what's it, David, what's it?
King David Golf
King
Club.
David
Yeah.
Golf Club. We can only build houses if we build on the King David Golf Club. So what are we building there? Another Amazon development for the select few? Or the Franz, what's it, Conradi? Is it Conradi? Conradi for a select few? What about the people that's been dispossessed of their homes? What about the people that can't afford? We look at the stats. The city talks about households that are indigent.
Exactly.
We talk about households that are indigent. Of the 100, how much? It's 1 point, I think it's 1 point something million houses. And then they come up with this strange figure of, I think 180 some odd, that is indigent.
So indigent households, what does the city define an indigent household as?
A property that's less than 500,000.
And they say, so this integrated annual report that says that the indigent household registry seems to be underreporting the true extent of poverty in Cape Town.
This is the
So
truth.
the city, shouldn't the city reconsider the criteria for, like, to reflect the reality? Because what the report says, how many indigent households we have, in reality there are many more.
Roscoe, you are correct. And the city should review that process. Because there is a qualification process in order to qualify to be indigent. One of it is that your property value must be 500,000 rand less. Anything above, you now fall into a total different category where you don't get 100% support, you get it in percentage value now. But it affects a number of things. So it does not just affect your property rate, your rate that you're paying. It also affects your electricity that you're using. So with you being in arrears, one, the city within the debt collection policy, they now has implemented a new thing where they can deduct from your electricity whatever you owe the city. So let me say it again. Whatever you owe the city, be it in arrears for something, water, your rates, or a fine. It goes fine as far as a fine. They can deduct it from your electricity. But your property value do also determine on which tariff you fall. So if you go from Lifeline, so you have Lifeline 1, Lifeline 2, Lifeline 1 gives you about 63 units, Lifeline 2 gives you 25 units. It doesn't balance out, but nonetheless it happens. And then you go into domestic. So this is where our people are struggling because there's no free units. And you are paying a bigger amount of money now for electricity where there's service charges attached to it. And the result of that is that they're already deducting, they're doing this, so you as a resident now start paying more for electricity because you need to survive, your kids need to eat. And so you get to that point where you really need to decide, am I buying a bread today or am I buying electricity to actually make something for my children to eat, to have something warm for my children to drink, for them to be able to get into a bath. Whatever they need to do, electricity is a requirement. But this whole system that the city has built is to keep our people right there within poverty. And there's no system really trying to assist them to get them out of it. And as the Good Party, we've been assisting so many people with electricity. I
want to ask about that. If you on the indigent relief, if you on the property, what is available to residents that are on that can, what indigent grant is available to residents, and what can be done about that?
Look, there's two things. So if you're in arrears and the city has never helped you before with your arrears and you apply for it, the city do a write-off and then you're basically back to zero. And then there's certain things that if it's 100%, you won't pay your rate amount, you won't pay towards your water. That's things that's for free. But then there's others that's percentages, so you'll get a percentage discount on everything. Then it also affects your electricity. So if you are indigent, you'll be able to move back to to a lower tariff, but there's also an additional thing that people are not seeing. So if I'm going to use a blanket amount for now. So if you use 300 rands worth of electricity, you can go on to Lifeline 1. But if you use 301 over a period of 12 months, so people are not picking that up. It says over a period of 12 months, then you can qualify. If for 1 month you at home and suddenly somebody passes on and you need to cook and you need to spend a little bit more on electricity and you go over the 300 rand and you go to 301, the city automatically puts you over into the next tariff setting, which means it's unfair towards the residents. Anything can happen at our places. Then at one stage, or we can have an extremely cold winter. And then you're going to have to heat up the place. Either I heat up my place and I go above and you put me into the next tariff, or I don't heat up and I wake up tomorrow morning with one of the children dead because it was too cold in the house. The city is not considering the conditions and the situations that our communities are finding themselves within. You're sitting with families on the Cape Flats who has 3 to 4 families. We just spoke about the housing backlog. We have 3 to 4 families living on that one property, buying electricity from the same meter. It's only obvious that it's going to be above the amount that is required for the free units. But the city is not saying, why don't we go out and go find out how many families is there? Then we introduce a program and we provide each family a backyard program because it was done in the past. We provide each family with their own meter box. Then we can now assist. When it comes to water, we charge the family based on the amount of people in the house and then we get some reliefs. Those things are not happening within the city. It's all taken away. So all they're doing is they are continually over-collecting based on the challenges that our people are facing. But at the end of it all we see is, soos ons het op die Cape Flats sê, so mense skarrel om my pa rantsies in te bring, so that they can pay for those things, but the children are going hungry.
If you need assistance with this, comment on this video, DM, give you details. Councillors can assist you to get onto a lower tariff.
Yes.
You need an indigent relief. Contact City of Cape Town councillors, Suzette Little or Jonathan Cupido. Just comment, get in touch. We can assist you, assist your neighbours, assist your community. Suzette?
Let me just add this. It's not just our communities. We must remember that our seniors are living a lot longer. The pension that they had put aside is no longer covering all of that expenses with the increases that we have. People living in good located areas are also now struggling. And the city hasn't found a way to find some sort of relief for them as well. And so you find people living in really good leafy suburbs that are also struggling with their indigent, and yet the city has not come up with an innovative way to find some sort of relief for our residents, and that is really what we want to look at. The money that we're talking about is not a donation from the DA. It is actually the equitable share that we get from Treasury. It must be spent on indigent. It must be spent on the people. So we have this a type of narrative where people say, look what we're doing for you. Well, the indigent has been around even when the ANC ran the City of Cape Town. The indigent was around when I ran the City of Cape Town with Patricia de Lille. It is something that will be there. It's how it is used for all its residents that is the way, is the discussion. How do we actually comment on what we have before us, which is what we're discussing today? It is in this integrated report. It tells you, with regards to housing, can the city resolve the housing crisis? Yes, it can. There is absolutely no reason why this City of Cape Town cannot resolve the housing crisis at the moment. We don't have to wait for the King David or the Youngsfield or Wingfield property. with the amount of properties that are released every single council, we could have seen a move towards that relief. We are releasing single residential properties, huge properties that could have been given to those on the waiting list, and start seeing people reintegrate into areas that they were displaced from. But we don't want that. You see, we don't want to be innovative in the way we deal with housing, because these are criminals, you know. I mean, we don't want them by us. It's not. It's people, it's community that have been left destitute. These are communities that's been left with nothing. They're busy removing our sports field. We've got less than nothing, but we're expected to grow and become They've just done away with our education, but we are expected to grow. If we're talking seriously about housing, start implementing the plans that was put in place by Patricia and by Brett. That's the first thing. Start implementing the social upliftment that I left behind when I left the city. Start implementing those programs so that our communities can actually grow and have something more than just a rental house. The rental homes is not the ultimate for our people. Our people want to achieve a lot more when it comes to housing. We don't want to be caught up in the gangs and the shooting and our children at risk. We don't want that. We want a better life for our family. So you ask me about housing, can they change the situation of the people? Yes, they can. The question is, do they want to?
So we're almost out of time. I want to, we always hear about clean audits, but the clean audits must be read in conjunction with this integrated annual report. So all of these concerns, that we've said, from fraud allegations, tender, conflict of interest, service delivery failure in housing, backlog of 350,000 families, financial mismanagement, why should Cape Town residents, and I'll leave this open to both of you, why should the residents of Cape Town continue to trust this administration?
I'm going to ask Jonathan to follow up on after I've spoken, but from this report, it is clear that the residents, even though the media has been making these statements, it is very clear that the residents have lost their trust in what is being told to them. We can see a drop in the satisfaction survey, the trust. When it comes to housing, it has dropped. When it comes to delivery of services, it has dropped. When it's come to transport, it's dropped. You can see that the people are no longer interested. It's out of 5, and I think the highest that they're going is a 3. But it's also in that departments that were raided not too long ago. So I'm not quite sure how one can trust what one sees. But the overall is at about between 2.8 and 2.7, which is 2 is poor, 3 is fair. So the people are telling you, as much as you shouting it from the rooftops, you are between poor and fair. That doesn't say much. Now, you don't have to believe me, and please don't hit me over the head. Read the report. This is the Auditor General's report. And he comes up and he says the highest we can get is that we fair. Not good. Good is 4. Daar's nie 'n 4 op die table nie. 3 is fair. The highest you can get in this city is fair. Now, can you imagine what it's like on the Cape Flats, where families have been without water now for 11 days, where families have got no electricity, where lice and all kinds of pests are in rental stock, where black mold is what you face every single day. I must play you the tape of a woman that was prepared to show the mayor the lice in her clothes because they don't even fumigate. And now I'm sure I'm going to find some very smart person that says, oh, because, they don't wash, or, they don't. No, it's not that. The maintenance of the place is pathetic. The place is crumbling. The birds in the roofs, the holes in the roofs, the holes in the ceiling, it's pathetic. And yet we have people that will come back with a comment, oh, they love living like that because, we live better here than there. I'm just saying people have lost their trust. And it is in the survey where the people are saying the best you can get in the city is a fare.
Jonathan, any final words or reflections?
Roscoe, the only thing that grew in the city was failure. Everything else relating to good governance has dropped. That says a lot. It speaks a lot to what our people are going through. It actually tells you that the governing party that we have no longer care about the people of Cape Town. Cape Town will always remain and be number one. We've been number one since I can remember throughout this country. But when we speak about better, it cannot be that the rest of the country is on 3% and you 3.1% and you think that you're great. You are equally as bad. The challenge that we're sitting with is that we need our residents to start becoming involved. They need to start speaking up. They need to start questioning. They need to start holding councillors, their municipalities accountable. What we are seeing is our residents walking away. What we are seeing, and it's evident within the elections, as Suzette has highlighted earlier on, the drop in this report, it's evident, it's highlighted, the drop of the trust that the residents have within the city. To gain that and to get the services is to ensure accountability. It's by time that we get to that point where councillors, specifically within this city of Cape Town, need to start learn to where our people find themselves instead of wanting to know and only know where the ATM sits on the 27th. If that changes, we're going to see a difference. But I can also guarantee every person out there, it's not going to change under the governing party because they're accustomed to only knowing where the ATM finds itself on the 27th. They will never accustom themselves to knowing where you are. It's by time that we change this government.
On that note, thank you so much. If you would like to get the assistance to receive indigent relief, you can contact us, leave a comment. We'll come to your area. Tell your friends and neighbors. The clean audit, you read it together with the integrated annual report. We live in the most best, well-run city in the world, of course. So, of course, you can read your own, make your own decisions about what the Auditor General says about the city. Don't let the city fool you with their own words. Thank you for joining us. We'll be Inside Council again soon, and see you soon.